An independent clause is a group of words that can stand on its own as a sentence. It has a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. A dependent clause is a group of words that also contains a subject and a verb, but is not a complete thought. Because it is not a complete thought, a dependent clause cannot stand on its own as a sentence. It is dependent on being attached to the independent clause to form a sentence. It is dependent on the other clause. You can also tell if it's a dependent clause by the commas in the sentence. You can also tell if a sentence has a dependent clause if the sentence has linking words like because, so, however, but, etc.
An appositive is a noun, noun phrase, or series of nouns placed next to another word or phrase to identify or rename it. An example of an appositive would be, my dog, a small fluffy animal, is very hyper. You could take out my dog and the two commas from the phrase, and the phrase would be, my dog is very hyper, and that makes sense as well. That is what an appositive is. Prepositional phrases are phrases that contain a preposition and the noun or pronoun that comes after it. An example of a prepositional phrase would be, she prepared food for the baby. A preposition is a word that describes the relationship between two nouns or pronouns. So in this case, the preposition of the sentence would be for, and the baby would be the noun that follows the preposition in this phrase.
Commas are used in many ways to help separate different thoughts in a sentence. However, there are two main rules when using commas. Rule number 1, you use commas to separate independent clauses when they are joined by any of these conjunctions, and, but, for, or. The game was over is the first thought in the sentence. Then adding a comma and a conjunction gives the sentence a moment pause and joins in the second thought into the sentence, but the crowd refused to leave. Rule number 2 for using commas is use commas after an introductory, the clause, phrase, or main point. The sentence doesn't make sense until you add an introduction and a pause using a comma to separate the different thoughts. Semicolons are also used in many different ways. They can link lengthy clauses with commas to avoid confusion between clauses. For example, the sentence, some people write with a word processor, typewriter, or a computer, semicolon, but others, for different reasons, choose to write with a pen or pencil. You see it separates the two clauses. The second way you can use the semicolon is to link lists where the items contain commas to avoid confusion between the list items. For example, there are basically two ways to write. With a pen or pencil, which is inexpensive and easily accessible, semicolon, or by computer and printer, which is more expensive but quick and neat. There's two lists written in these sentences, one before the semicolon and then after it. The semicolon combines the two lists into one thought.